Greetings, everyone. Peace and blessings be unto you all. I am Minister Jamie Eatman, and I am on the rise. I would like to thank you all for joining me. And we're about to begin the program. We always begin with prayer, but I indeed want to thank you. And I ask that you would please share this program with someone. And we're going to enter into prayer. We always begin the program in that way. Let us pray. Most Holy Father, we most humbly come before you, giving you honor, giving you glory, and giving you praise. We are grateful for all that you have done, is doing, and that you're going to do in our lives. We pray that you open all eyes, ears, minds, and hearts, that we might be attentive to something that's going to be said that might be needed to inspire, something that might be needed to educate, motivate someone, that they might indeed be able to rise to the occasion, the many opportunities and occasions that present themselves in our lives, and in rising to the occasion, that they might very well be able to rise above life situations and circumstances. We pray that something's going to be said will be a blessing and that you will be pleased with this entire program. We give you honor and glory in all things. It's in the spirit of Christ we pray. Amen. All right, all right, all right. For those of you who may have joined us last week, we actually were talking about the Black Panthers, the 10-point plan. And it was indeed, actually, it was a couple, I think at least 3 weeks that we dealt with that particular topic. And I'm just going to run through them real quick. There's a what we want and what we believe. So let's go with the what we want. What we want, it says, number one, we want freedom. We want power to determine the destiny of our Black community. We want full employment for our people. We want an end to the robbery by the white man of our Black communities. We want decent housing, fit for shelter of human beings. We want education for our people that exposes the true nature of this decadent American society. We want education that teaches us about true history and our role in the present day society. We want all Black men to be exempt from military service. We want an immediate end to police brutality and murder of Black people. We want freedom for all Black men held in federal, state, county, and city prisons and jails. We want all Black people, when brought to trial, to be tried in a court by a jury of their peers, of their peer group, of people from their Black communities as defined by the Constitution of the United States. We want land, bread, housing, education, clothes, justice, and peace. And as our major political objective, a United Nations supervised plebiscites to be held throughout the Black colony, in which only Black colonial subjects will be allowed to participate in the purpose of determining the will of the Black people as to their national destiny. Now, as I read those, some of it may have sounded a little different from what you've read before. One of the things I have discovered is depending on where you go and where you find it, you will definitely find something a little bit different in each case. All right. I just spoke with my cousin. He says he's on. Thank you, family. Peace and blessings be unto you. Okay. So, as I just went through those 10 points there, that proved to be a pretty good show. One of the days we had and I can call him a friend because we do talk, a friend of mine on, and he made the program interesting. As my wife said, it was interesting. I was actually looking for more feedback because truly the program was reflective of where we are today. We have individuals who are more militant minded. We have some individuals who are more observing of the law, a law abiding citizen. There comes a time and a place. They say there's a time and a place for everything, and there's nothing new under the sun. So when you look throughout history, throughout the Bible, you find war, you find peace, you find joy, you find pain, you find laughter, you find sunshine, you find rain, you find all of that. There's a time and a place for everything under the sun. And I mentioned that because the topic that we talked about, it dealt with something from the past. And here we were, people, generations sitting here at the future, in the present, looking at something that was written in the past. But let us not be deceived for one moment. That's something that we were looking at least it was a plan. It was the Black Panthers 10-point plan. That plan is important because minus a plan, people can go about wandering and they can wander aimlessly. And if there's no aim in what you're doing, There really isn't going to be very much you're going to accomplish. I just remembered my word processor did not allow me to save the program, but I remember the title. The title of it was Definitive, and I'm putting it up here for you now. Definitive plans. And some of you might ask, what does that mean? Definitive plans are just plans where you actually have an true desired objective in it, and you know what it is. And one of the problems with not having a definitive plan is that, we can start out doing something and everybody feels they know a better way. And sometimes we promote that by not having a plan. When we have the plan, people can actually know the plan and they can work at it. If you've ever been in a situation where you had to depend on someone, as most of us do, you may not be the one that actually comes up with the plans, but there's a plan. If you work for a corporation, you're only a little department, and what your department is doing is only a piece of something else that's a collective. And when you think about a police department, they got their little radio, they got the communication intact, they got the cars, they got the transportation intact. They know when they get on and off, they know how to replenish their soldiers. All these things are important because they have definitive plans about how to go about that. And why am I talking about that? I'm talking about that because we are in a world today where things are changing so much. It's and I can speak to me personally. As I look at what's going on today, and I have this idea in my mind that there's something that needs to be done. And the closer I get to coming up with a conclusion of what that something is, something happens. So I begin to realize at this point, if it's in your heart to do something, that's what you got to do. Because when you look at where we are now and what's going on, somebody has to make the difference. Change just doesn't come about. Change is actually brought about. So as we talk about these definitive plans, there's a couple things I wanted to touch on. There's a document that I'm waiting on. I don't know if my wife sent it to me by email or what, but it pertains to this expected blackout of whatever we're calling it that is supposed to take place. And this particular event here is one that is, I think, is kind of, I wouldn't say highly publicized or highly advertised, because I haven't seen anything on TV. Not that I watch a lot of TV, but I don't think it's made the TV. But it's supposed to be something that a collective is being asked to do. And why would I be mentioning that? I'll tell you. Because when it comes down to doing anything, you want to be in one accord. I use the example of moving in a group of people. If you can think about these people walking, and it's a mass, and then some might say it's a crowd, and some might say it was an army, or maybe an army, a company, a platoon, or a squad, depending on what size the element is. But what makes a difference in these different groups? And the things that makes a difference in these groups is how they move. How they move. Because when you look at a crowd and they are moving as a crowd, and let's just say something happened, and they were angry, then they get called a mob. But they are moving in precision to the point where they all move in unison, and they move at command. And I say at command in the fact that there's someone that's actually leading them. There's people that can use whistles, and people will move on command on a whistle because they know. But what I'm really wanting to get at is, when we look at community, there's a lot of things we have to really, really pay attention to. Lady Antoinette says, it's in your messenger. She also says, greetings all, peace and blessings. But getting back to what I was just saying about the group of people, the more precision there is within that group, the more discipline there is within that group, the more on one accord the group is, the more serious the group will be taken. I don't know if you all might have seen this movie, but there was a movie, and I'm not sure who was playing Malcolm X, or maybe it was a real clip, a news clip, I don't know. But the person actually, there was something going on, And there were all these people here, and they were trying to move them, but they were angry. And I don't remember the particular thing that they were angry about, because that portion dealt with it, it involved their emotionalism. I'm not highlighting the emotion, but I need to get you to see this. If you can imagine a people that are angry to the point they might even have bricks in their hand and they're about to attack. And here comes someone, and that person is able to speak to them. And when that person speaks, they listen. And when asked to go away, they actually did. That is what you call power. And I'm saying that because that's actually the way it was seen, as power. Because when the powers that be saw that one man had that much influence, it scared them. People should be scared of us today, but they really aren't. And I think it's something about, when you hear people make statements like, you have that slave mindset. People here are big, they're bad, and they're always talking about being woke. And some of them feel they're so woke that they can down others. And one of the programs, I think I may have shown a clip where there was, who was it, the individual? It was two of our creators, naturally, the individuals with a microphone just like this, and an audience with four more numbers. And they were speaking, on, it was Candace Owens. And as I listened to what they were saying, I really felt bad, because communication for me is very important. You need to know what you're talking about, one. You need to be correct, which is two. And it needs to be well presented. When we put our emotions into things, that's normally where we go wrong at. When a person gets upset, there's something that's wrong. There's a saying that he who angers you controls you. He who angers you controls you. And I say, if you're out of control, or if you lose control, you're out of control. And if he who angers you controls you, it only makes sense that when you lose control, it's going to pertain to your emotions and how someone can actually cause you to do or say something that leads to something else. And that's very important. If I can go back to the crowd for a moment, imagine a crowd, and I witnessed this. It was doing the marches during the Black Lives Matter. And as they marched, everyone had this certain hesitancy about them, because this was one of those communities that was probably predominantly white. I wish I remembered the mall, but there was a mall that they went near, and it was posted and stated, "Don't come this way." But they chose to go anyway. And the reason I'm bringing that up is, when you have a situation like that where people are half-hearted, all it takes is one sudden incident to happen. And once that little bit of fear set in and that crowd turns, then that's when people get trampled. If you really want to know what that looks like, or if you can place yourself in that position, imagine marching. There's a difference in these two marches. I want y'all to get this. One group says, "I ain't gonna let nothing turn me around. I ain't gonna let nothing turn me around." And if you look to your right, there's someone there singing that same song. "Ain't gonna let nothing turn me around. That was one march. Unfortunately, I never participated in one like that. But I did get to see one, and I participated in one of the Black Lives Matter marches. And I went there because I wanted to see what the spirit of that, and I'll call it a movement, because that's what they called it. I wanted to see what the spirit of it was. And when I went there and I heard the cry, "What's their name?" And they would sound with George Floyd. And then they would name maybe several other names. And they kept marching, and they were naming these names. And in my mind, and I even stated this, and it was correct, unfortunately, that time frame was a catalyst. Catalysts are one of those things that we start out with, and it burns hard, it burns fast, but if you don't get something on it, it's going to burn out. And that was literally what happened. And I'm mentioning that because, again, I am talking about definitive plans. And when you look at that statement, definitive plans, there's a reason for it. When I speak on that, I'm speaking about something that I really want you all to try to get. Because when you start talking about definitive plans, it's very important that you keep in mind this isn't just a plan, this is a definitive plan. There was something I asked my wife to send me. She told me to look in Facebook, that it'll be in my messenger. And I have two accounts, so I don't know which one that would be. Lady Antoinette, if you could print that and bring it to me, I would greatly appreciate it. But definitive plans aren't just plans. You know, we can plan to go downtown, but then there's the question of, okay, what are we going down there for? You know, some people, they may seem nosy to you. They may seem like they want to know every little detail. It used to be questions like, where you going? Who you going with? How long you going to be gone? And then they give you your briefing before you go. And while you out there, don't you this and don't you do that. And then when you left, you kind of had a better understanding. But definitive plans are those things that we want to know what the plan or what the objective is and how we're going to go about it. And I'm bringing it up because I'm really kind of making my way into something that is very, it's important to me. I think we need to be very strategic in how we go about anything in life. And we're in a season today, whereas anyone that is really paying attention, this is a highly sensitive point in time for most of us. Can't say that it hadn't occurred before, but it's highly sensitive in that there are some things going on, and some people will say it's happening at a rapid pace. When you look at this scenario that's going on, it was one thing, you know, when the elections were going on and it was a matter of who was going to vote for who and all of that. And you expected all that emotion in the air, all this indecision. But when it was decided, you expected that to die down some. But that hadn't died down and probably won't for a while. Not because the people want to keep it alive, but because the person who was elected president, Donald Trump, is actually doing the type of things that would stir even more emotions than was stirred when there was an election. There was a person that did some videos about how some people were upset now because they thought that he was going to do this and he did that. But I'm mentioning that because there are certain things in life that we have to keep in mind. There's the serenity prayer. And the serenity prayer is very important because there's going to be some things that are going around us that if we get consumed with them, they can cause us a lot of worry. And some of us, it might even cause us some sickness. But we need to remember the serenity prayer. The serenity prayer just asks for the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, the courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. Why is that important? That's important because as I mentioned to you earlier, as we go through life, there are opportunities and there are occasions. There are opportunities and there are occasions. And when we encounter those opportunities and those occasions, we have to decide what we're going to do with them. Most of us know how Dr. King and during the civil rights movement, how they marched across this bridge. But if I have it correct, they didn't march across that bridge the first time. As they began to, there was a decision made not to march across that bridge. I could almost imagine that. You know, here it is. You have this historical moment. Remember I told you about those militant people? There were probably some saying, let's go, let's go, let's go, because they wanted to do it. This was an opportunity to do it, opportunity. And there was occasion. But for some reason, they didn't. I didn't research why they didn't. I just wanted to use this as a teaching moment. But then the time came back around when they was on that bridge. And it was time to march. But that did two things, because remember that first one when they did march? Someone will see you, and if you become threatening, they are prepared for you. So no doubt they were even more prepared the second time than they were the first, which for in some people's mind might have been all the more reason to turn around a second time. But that didn't happen. They did something that's amazing. They bowed and they prayed to God. Now, why is bowing and praying to God important? Remember the thing I just said to you about the serenity prayer. God, grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, the courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. It was wise to pray. It was wise to take that moment. And when that moment of prayer was finished, they rose to their feet. They rose to their feet. In other words, they were on the rise. They rose to their feet. That group of people were on the rise. There was an occasion. There was an opportunity. And they rose to the occasion, which, like so many of us are challenged with today, there's opportunity, there's occasion. And we have to be able, or we need to be in a position where we're willing to rise to the occasion. I want to welcome Sister Kelly. She says, peace and blessings to everyone. I can't believe I got home. No problem tonight. Thank God. Thank you, Sister Kelly, for joining us. But Sister Kelly, I was just talking about opportunity and occasion and how we always have them before us. But oftentimes we're not willing to rise to the occasion, or we may not take the opportunity at that moment. And it's all right, because we have to come to understand that people are where they are and people are who they are. And that's why we have to be encouragers of one another, because sometimes the people around you reflect you. Your children reflect you. You know, when we were coming up and we would get the hell beat out of us. It wasn't always because of what we did. Some people might think, you know, there was the white people and black people felt like they had to protect their children so much. But sometimes it was something as simple as, you went out this house and you did this. You were a representative of me. And because you represented me and you did this, that was not in accordance with who I am. And nor is that the person I want you to be. So at that point, that was a consequence for it. But going back to who we are, going back to the occasions and the opportunities, there's something in our character that determines who we are and what we do. I'll share this with you, and then I'm going to share a video, video with you. There's a story in the Bible that I always talk about on Wednesdays when we do Rise to Prosperity, and that's the story of Jesus, Yeshua, Christ. I'll agree with any of your names you'll call him except God. I won't agree with that one. But when he was there with his disciples in the garden and he left them and he asked them to watch while he went farther ahead. And he went there and he petitioned something, put it before his father. And when he came back, he was upset because of what they were doing or they didn't do. And he asked again, can you not just watch this time, but watch and pray? Remember on the bridge, they prayed. Prayer is very important. But they didn't even watch and pray. They went to sleep. And he came a second time and he went back a third time. But when he came back the third time, he said something to them that is very important in this hour. I said people will be who they are. People are going to be who they are because that's basically what they have it in their heart, their mind, and their spirit to be. So when he came and told them to sleep on, he had accepted that there was something that he had to do. And in that day, that's something that he had to do. It was something that needed to be done. But we live in a world today where that's something that he did should be an inspiration to what we have to do. And just like him, some of us today, we're going to find that there's some people on your right to your left that are going to be sleeping on you. They ain't ready. They ain't down with it. They ain't having it. Remember those people that assembled on that bridge? I would probably say every one of them left somebody at home. They might have wanted to be there beside them, because that's life. When you get ready to do something in life and you get ready to move forward, it calls for a certain mindset and it calls for a certain spirit. And when it comes down time for that mindset and in that spirit, we have to be willing and able to walk in it. We have to be willing and able to be about it. And when we get to that point, then we're ready. And that's when we get to that point where we can tell somebody, sleep on. You all go on and have your 4th of July barbecue. You all go on and do the things that we did long before we found out that we shouldn't have been doing. You all go on. But there's some that will not partake of that because destiny calls them. There's an opportunity and there's an occasion. And believe it or not, there's one word I don't talk about much, and that word is purpose. Some of us have a purpose. When the opportunity and the occasion, it could very well be the purpose of what I was born for. This is what I was born to do. Can you imagine that? Imagine living your life. Imagine being Dr. King and all the things you've done, all the crowds, all the people. And down near the end of your journey, you're being rejected. You're being pushed aside, and you still get to a point where you realize this is what I came here to do. And you willingly go, knowing that the place that you're going to can cost you your life. No wonder he made the statement, if a man hadn't found something for which he's willing to die, he isn't fit to live. Have we found something for which we're willing to die? Interesting question, isn't it? This video I'm about to show you is an interesting one because the man that's speaking is speaking from a place and a position much different than yours and ours. I wish I had a group here so we could really just get into what I'm trying to say. But what I want to bring out to you is the man that's speaking. Many of us have heard this about speaking truth to power, right? There's a lot of that going on today, and there's going to be a lot more. But I want to share this video with you. And listen, if I have it. Yes, listen.
We want to make it very clear that we should not be confused with a generation of cowards who can be bullied by imperial forces and power-hungry individuals intoxicated by the wealth of apartheid. The United States of America has bullied nations before and imposed senseless and arbitrary sanctions and threatened wars. But we are a different generation. We are a generation of economic freedom fighters and will not be bullied, Mr. President. We agree with you, President, that we should not be bullied. We stand on the shoulders of the giants who confronted the establishment with their very lives, and we are willing to follow in their footsteps. We are not cowards, and they must not try us.
Now, as you listen to that, you heard that accent. This man is speaking from Africa, area known as Africa. And not only that, he's speaking, and you heard him say he agreed with you, Mr. President. He was speaking to his president of his country and that we should not be bullied. And if you listen to what was being said, he made reference to the president of the United States. Can you imagine that? Now, here we are, here in the United States, and we talk about things like Black people being united. We talk about a lot of things, but when I hear conversations like that, and I look at what's going on, there's something that's going on in the world today, and we're all a part of it. And we're either going to be an active part of it, or we're going to stand by and watch. Because as he spoke that statement there's some things that are possibly going on here in this so-called United States, dealing with, as the Nation of Islam say, these so-called Negroes or Black Americans or whatever else, whatever other term that there might be that people might use. But there's some things going on. And as those things are going on, we want to be mindful of those things. Because right now, as we look in the world, look around us, we can see a lot of things. And those things that we're looking at, they're very important, because it's those things that will determine our destiny. And more importantly than our destiny, it's the destiny of our children. So when we look at those things and we hear someone speaking, I want to take you back and tell you what I heard. I heard him say, we're not that generation. And he used a word that didn't particularly pertain to that they were brave and that they were powerful, the previous generations. But he made reference to the generation, his generation. And just as he had a generation, or as a part of a generation, we have a generation. And as he made reference to the bully that was bullying that country, as he said, with the tariffs and all those other things, how different is that than the bullying with the taxes here, the issues with the DEI, all the things, the cares of this world that are being stirred up, that are being threatened. How different is it? You know, there's so many things that converges at this point in time. And depending on a person's age and how they relate, you know, you may see it a lot of different ways, and some people may not be able to see it the way you see it. But this is a season here where we have to be mindful that there is an occasion before us. There is an opportunity for change. And this isn't a window, because change is one of those things that all it really needs is an agent, someone that's willing to be an agent of change. And there have been many. And I submit to you, there will be many more, because that's the way change is. There are people that are born into this world that have something inside of them that come that time, that opportunity, that occasion, and that purpose. And all that equates to a destiny. But here in this United States, this place in which we live, I find it so interesting that some of our leaders said that they would love to go home, that they would want a place of their own. And I remember one particular that said that to think that we should ever be driven out, that we would die out or anything, is absurd. And his comment was, we will go with this people, either as a testimony against them or a testimony in their favor. And when those words were made, it was like Dr. King and his generation. He said that he may not get there with you. Frederick Douglass didn't say those words, but he was referencing us that came behind him. Dr. King was referencing us that came behind him. And as we come behind them, I want you to remember there are those who have gone before you. And some of us in our selfishness, we think that we're this, we think we're that. But there were some great men and women that came before us. And I like to think there's going to be some even greater ones that's going to come after us. You don't believe me? Ask your children. They'll probably tell you now that they're greater. But I don't mean just in words. I mean in words and deed. So as we're talking about this, I want to talk about something that's very important. We've had many plans. We went through the 10-point plan with the Black Panther. And as I went through that, I thought to myself how there's one group that has had a plan, just as the Panthers did. And it was written the same way, what we believe and what we want. And that was the Nation of Islam. And when we look around us, we can see greatness. We can see those who came. We can see those who are still standing. The road wasn't easy. It was paved so well. And the truth be told, they're still standing. And what's important about the standing is because really the fight is still ongoing. And in the fight, you either bow out or you stand. And more important than bowing out and standing is bowing. So if we're going to bow, let us bow to pray, just as they did on the bridge. But when we rise to our feet, the world should know that there is a force to be reckoned with. And I'm saying all this because I really believe in the potential of we as a people. But if we're going to be successful as a people, going back to this definitive plans, we need to have some definitive plans. And those definitive plans has to work toward an end game. And the document that I asked for hasn't arrived yet, so I'll address it as best I can. There was a portion of the issue surrounding Trump, President Trump, and all the things that are going on. I guess it was DEI or whatever it was, but apparently at some point we felt we had enough. And there was some conversation that took place, and there was some information that came out of that conversation. And that information talked about, I may get it wrong, but it talked about a blackout or something that's supposed to happen near the end of the month. But as I looked at it, I didn't get a chance to finish reviewing it, but I thought about it. You know, we as a people, we need to be more definitive in our plans. Because when I look at the thought of not shopping, and it said not spending any money, you know, not spending any money is not the difference, not the same as don't spend any money on the other side of town. Not spending any money. So I guess if someone were to look at you and want to condemn you for what you might have thought about, you'd be able to argue, well, I didn't spend any money over there either. Not saying that's what the reason was, or that, because I mean, I can't see why I would want to make a protest against what the United States stands for and do the same thing to the people that look like me or whatever. So my thought was that could have been done a little differently. It could have been done to the point where we were only going to spend our dollars in our community. Now, if they got to the bank the same day, good. If they didn't, they didn't. But we would be able to change the narrative, because that one day of solely spending in our community would have helped the narrative about how long the dollar circulates within our community. When we look at the things we're doing, I'm going to possibly go with that. But as you can hear already, I have, I wouldn't say a protest, but an issue with that. Because when we look at the things that we're doing, they need to be toward the end game. And when it comes down to the end game for us as a people, there are a lot of things we need to look at. And I don't think we're paying enough attention to a lot of them. And a lot of that has to do with how we operate. We have to be purposeful. Being purposeful isn't something that just happens. It calls for a plan, something unique, something definitive. It's gonna move us to where we feel we need to be. And if I have a plan, and I want y'all to remember this, if you're ever in a decision-making position, if I'm in a decision-making position and I have some people that I am leading, unless it's something that calls for a decision on my part, I could easily get their input. And we decide that this is what we're going to do. And when we make those decisions, people that feel they have input into the plan are more likely to go with it. And naturally, you can't ask everybody, because though when they went into the room, those few that went in, they figured when they came out, the many that would receive it would run with what the few came up with. But we need to be mindful when it comes to a plan, it needs to be definitive. I would actually, if given the opportunity, love to wait till this was done and have that after action review that I talk about so much, which would be, what did we do right? What did we do wrong? How can we fix it? And when can we do it again? But see, I'd probably get put out because that isn't something they probably want to do again, depending on how it goes over the first time. But in any case, there's some things that we need to do, some definitive plans. We need to be purposeful. We need to realize that destiny awaits us. You know, you all celebrate birthdays, and you know that from one year to the next, you have a birthday. As a matter of fact, I can honestly say you're destined to age. You're destined to grow older. And you could say that's my destiny, to grow older. But with that age should come something. There's something we can prepare for destiny-wise. I want to share another video with you.
We have no alternative but to keep moving with determination. We've gone too far now to turn back. And in a real sense, we are moving, and we cannot afford to stop, because Alabama and because our nation has a date with destiny. I'm here to tell you tonight that the businessmen, the mayor of this city, the police commissioner of this city, and everybody in the white power structure of this city must take a responsibility for everything that Jim Clark does in this community. It's time for us to say to these men that if you don't do something about it, we will have no alternative but to engage in broader and more drastic forms of civil disobedience in order to bring the attention of the nation to this whole issue in Selma, Alabama. Nonviolent creed is the conviction that there are some things so dear, some things so precious, some things so eternally true that they're worth dying for. And if a man happens to be 36 years old, as I happen to be, and some great truth stands before the door of his life, some great opportunity to stand up for that which is right, he's afraid his home will get bombed, or he's afraid that he will lose his job, or he's afraid that he will get shot or beat down by state troopers. He may go on and live until he's 80, but he's just as dead at 36 as he would be at 80, and the cessation of breathing in his life is merely the belated announcement of an earlier death of the spirit. He died. Dies when he refuses to stand up for that which is right. A man dies when he refuses to stand up for justice. A man dies when he refuses to take a stand for that which is true. So we're going to stand up right here amid horses. We're going to stand up right here in Alabama amid the billy clubs. We're going to stand up right here in Alabama amid police dogs if they have them. We're going to stand up amid tear gas. We're going to stand up amid anything that they can muster up, letting the world know that we are determined to be free.
You know, if you listen to those powerful words, and powerful they are, that was Dr. King. And to show you all, there's a quote that says, "Truth forever on the scaffold. We building, we shaping, we working towards something. Wrong forever on the throne. Yet behind the scaffold in the dim unknown stand God, keeping watch above his own." The previous clip I played to you from the brother there in Milano in South Africa, he was speaking power. He was speaking truth to power. Dr. King spoke truth to power. We led certain things that now we find armies are ahead of us and where we should be. And it's not about a race, though it is. It is, but it isn't. We ain't racing with anybody. But we still need to remember that he who gets behind in a race must forever remain behind or run faster than the man in front. There's some opportunities for change that are going on. And they are opportunities that if we don't seize the moment, things are not going to be as well as they were, because they are changing. So in other words, a change is going to come. It's coming regardless. But do you want any control over the future, or do you just want the future to unfold upon you and before you? Or do you want to unfold the future before you? That's the difference. That's the choice. One is you are an active participant in what's being unfolding before you. And two, the other is you watch. Either we are going to be participants or we're not. We're going to participate either way, but either we're going to be participants in how and what the future looks like, or we're not. And I will share this with you all. I was speaking earlier about BRICS. This was before Donald Trump came back in office or anything. Just an observation. These people in the BRIC, I think that they are the Brazil, Russia, India, China, South Africa, and there are growing numbers. As a matter of fact, it is frightening if you let President Trump tell it, because he's threatening all of these tariffs because he's trying to control what is unfolding. But remember, truth forever on the scaffold. There are some people that they can deal with the hype. They can rise to the occasion. They know how to bow down and pray and rise up again. They know how to rise to the occasion. They know how to rise above the situations and the circumstances. And those that they can't rise above, sometimes you just have to go through. Ain't gonna let nobody turn me around. There's a spirit. We may have been somehow convinced that those old songs were slavery songs, but those old songs had enough spirit to bring our people through slavery. And here we are today, minus those songs, with the same challenge that our ancestors had when they had them. And there is work to do. But if we are going to be able to do it, we got to have definitiveness of plans. So as we move forward, there's a lot of things that are going on. As a matter of fact, I would say, listen. I get it now. I didn't get it before. But there was this Honey in a Rock. And there was a song that said, listen. And there was this sound made like a whistling. I didn't get it, but I just got it. Listen. Because when you listen, he that had an ear, let him hear. Listen. He that had an eye, let him see. Look. See and hear what's going on around you. As Ezekiel said, he was taken away in the spirit. And he saw this valley of dry bones, and he was asked the question, can these bones live again? Who knows, he might have been taken to Africa when they were being colonized. Or he might have been brought to America when they were in slavery. And he said, they are dry. They are very dry. Appears that there's no life in them. But he, as the story goes, was told to prophesy to them. And there was a noise, and there was a rumbling, and the dry bones. There was something that he began to see. And as those dry bones began to move, it says that they started to come into themselves. If you look around you, you'll see some things in the world today. If you look at BRIC, those countries are coming together. They're making a statement. No different than what my brother just said about America, the bully. America had his hand in everybody's pocket. But BRIC is showing us how to get it out. And you know, the sad thing is, we're here in the United States. And I'm saying we because I'm just as black. As a matter of fact, I'm blacker than some of you all because I'm a strong black man. Not to say that you can't be and aren't, but I can only vouch for myself. But there's some things that we have dealt with. There's some things that are, if you look at all the money that they're telling you they're finding, there's that little thing called reparation. It's been on the table for so long. All this money that's about to be given, if they were concerned with justice, maybe they revisit that. But why? Actually, why should they? Why should they when our idea of a protest is not to strengthen our communities, but to just not spend, period? And we're making a statement. We'll go down in history probably if nobody's done that before in the modern times. Somebody be right there with Donald Trump across on one page. They came up with a decision not to spend anything for 24 hours in the United States. But how much more different would that read if that sought to empower their people? And on this day, they spent black because they were black in opposition to white America. Two stories, just reads a little different. Two acts, just a little bit different. Definitiveness of purpose. We need to be working toward a definitive end. And when we start doing that, you'll begin to see that the respect that's due will be given. And why is that? Because the respect that's due will be demanded. The program today was really just to address kind of what we talked about those plans, because as we move forward, and I say we, I'll say this, as we rise to the occasion, the On the Rise movement, the Rise to Prosperity, On the Rise Network and Outreach, God has some things that lay ahead of us, some relationships to be built, some bones to come unto some bones. But even more importantly, Ezekiel going and he saw those bones, to get back to that song, that sound, it was a wind. They were making a wind sound. And Ezekiel, this wind thing, he heard it too. Ezekiel said that there was a wind, and Ezekiel was told to call the breath forth from the wind. And what though Honey in a Rock was saying was that there's wind. The sound of the wind is a constant, but it's not the wind that's needed. It serves its purpose, but it's not the wind, it's the breath. And the breath, can't nobody breathe like I can breathe. I got a unique breathing sound. I got a unique respiration cycle. Can't nobody breathe like you can breathe. But Dr. King said something, I want y'all to get this. He said a man at age 36 that have not found something for which he's willing to die, even if he lives to be 86. When he dies at 86, it's just a proclamation of what this man that died at 36 finally died, in other words. There's some changes that are coming, and they're going to come with or without you. What role are you willing to play? Or play, should I say? When it comes down to being on the rise, the OTR movement, you know, this is solo here, but when God sends what he's going to send, and when it gets to be what he's called it to be, there'll be some other people saying, whoever I am, I'm on the rise. I'm Minister Jamie Eekman, I'm on the rise. There'll be some other organizations that'll be calling their name. I would love to hear something like, I'm whoever with the NAACP, and I'm on the rise. When I went to Africa, I don't think nothing will ever replace this experience. And I'm going to share this experience with you. I can speed it up. I think I can, but let me share this with you.
What's your name? And
I am on the rise. Repeat.
And what that means is this: no matter what my situation is, if I'm 20 to a desk, it doesn't make a difference because my mind is still functioning. My heart is still functioning. And until they fix the desk situation, what are we going to do, Juliana?
Rise. We're gonna
No,
rise.
that doesn't sound right. Y'all tell Juliana what we're going to do.
Rise.
Oh, that's not good either. Let's try it again. What are we going to do? What's my name? Mr. Eekman on the rise. And what's your name? Y'all can't talk at the same time, right? Yeah. But you can think the same way. When I say what's your name, just say we are on the rise. What's your name? We are on the rise. What's your name? We are on the rise. What's your name? We are on the rise. Now that sounds like African to me.
That's one of those moments that you would have had to been there to see all the beautiful faces. But when that silence, when it went over that room, when asked what was their name, none of this was rehearsed. Everything, if you notice, they said was in sequence. It's like us here in the United States. They have us that way. Everything is sequence. But when asked, what's your name? You know, we wouldn't be like them. We cry everything else. We got so many different names and things. And, you know, we go as far back as we can go in Egypt to Egyptian, Egyptology. We Aborigines. We are all these people. But the reality still comes down to this. It's not so important what my past was. Let the historians tell us that. It's not so important what my religion is. The theologians are going to tell us that. But what I want to know is the truth. What I want to know is my relationship to my God. What I want to know is my relationship to my people. And just as when I was speaking, the people off the side, they were on the rise, and they were saying on the rise, and they were letting them know. So I was comfortable enough to ask the others, what are we doing, or who are we? And they said on the rise, because they had heard it. But when that statement was made, we may not all have the same name. We may not all be able to speak at the same time, but we can have the same spirit. So one asked their name, if you heard the cry, if you heard the response. I didn't just hear it, I felt it. You know, that building had 10 roofs. Not the 10 roofs, you know, that you look up and it might be a little hole in it or something. But it actually had a tin roof to the point that you could actually see through it in some places. And that wasn't so long ago. So when they start showing you all these beautiful places in Africa, they are there. But there's still some other things that need attention. And it's no different than here in America. So what am I saying? that regardless of where we find ourselves on the soil, there is work to do. And if we don't do it, it won't get done. My sister Flossie came back. Flossie, peace and blessings be unto you. Peace and blessings. She says, watching you live in Ghana. I love you. That was, I hope you saw the youth there, Flossie. I'm hoping to find that young lady at some point, hopefully my next visit. I just want to go back. Sister Yana came in and she said, peace and blessings and greetings to all. She also said, hello, everyone. Oh, this was Darren Ferris. Thank you, Darren Ferris, for joining us. And Sister Kelly was in and she said, amen. And Sister Miss Flossie, I'm waiting for you to join us. Please, just reach out to me or Lady Antoinette. Either way, I would love to have you as a part of the program. But I want to thank you all for joining me as I shared what I've shared with you. This was like a foundation because I'm in build mode. And why am I in build mode? Because as I look around me, my peace has been disturbed. My peace is disturbed by the things that I see going on abroad. My peace is disturbed by the things I see going on around me. My peace is disturbed by the injustice. And either I can bow out with my disturbed peace, or I can rise to the occasion in hope of impacting the situations and the circumstances. So I will leave you all with the thought. Those people that are in leadership, they're there for a reason. And if you're one of those leaders, I would say lead. And if you have someone that's leading, I would say to you, follow. But just as sure as we are following, just as my brother in Africa spoke to Donald Trump here in the United States, just as Dr. King spoke to the powers that be, there's some accountability that people think they're exempt from. But as we move forward, if we will hold each other accountable, you'll find out how contagious it can be. When we get to the point where we can cry with one voice and one spirit, we are on the rise. When we can believe that and say that, when we can believe it in our hearts and confess it with our mouths, then we are ready. As Dr. King said, we found that something for which we are willing to die. Please join me next week because I'm hoping to have an even greater program, and we talked about the plan and see what On the Rise has in store or its plans for the future. And those plans will be nothing without you. So I encourage you, please join me next Friday and invite someone else to come out and join us. I want to welcome Timothy Richardson, little Luke. I'm with you, my brother. Peace and blessings be unto you. I want to leave y'all with this song. And this song here was done by Lady Antoinette. Not because, I'm not mentioning that because she's my wife, but every now and then when I hear this song, it does move me.
This generation and turn their hearts to our Father.
I forgot to say I was singing with her.
This generation and turn their hearts to our Father which art in heaven, and turn their hearts to our Father, Lord of creation.
You're invited to Rise to Prosperity, Wednesday evenings at 8 p.m. I, Lady Antoinette, and my co-host, Minister Jamie Eatman, would love for you to join us, our panelists, and our conversation room guests Wednesday evenings at 8 p.m. as we rise to prosperity.
There is no time to engage in the luxury of cooling off or to take the tranquilizing drug of gradualism.
And I, for one, will join in with anyone. Don't care what color you are, as long as you want to change this miserable condition that exists on this earth.
Greetings, I am Jamie Eaton. Join me Fridays at 8 p.m. to our On the Rise movement.
All right, everyone. That's it until next Friday. You heard our promotions. Join us Wednesday at 8 p.m. And if you happen to miss that, I look forward to you again on Friday. Peace and blessings be unto you all. And remember, regardless of the situation or the circumstances, when the occasion or the opportunity comes before you, rise.